also right-wing taxpayers have to pay for the national television, and national television is preposterously inclined to left. It's impossibly inclined towards left wing.
Good morning, friends, and welcome to Poland. In the following, you're going to see an interview with Mr. Aleš Ernecl, who is a Slovenian commentator, an author, a columnist. He's a YouTuber and part of this weird new wave of Slav alternative media, and we are going to talk about the state of the free media in Slovenia. It's actually something you need to know to kind of understand the development in the South Slav world when it comes to how public opinions are being made. Please don't forget to comment, alright? This helps the algorithm a lot. So when Aleš says something that you think is interesting, just comment down below what you think about it. It's gonna help grow this channel a bit because, you know, the channel is shadow banned anyway, but everything helps a bit. Alright, and now let's go. Okay, but before we really kick off, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a geography lesson because I just don't know if you are aware where Slovenia is and how this all ties up together. So this is Europe. All right, this is where Europeans come from, and here you have the Northern European, Scandinavian area. This is what we would refer to Western Europe or Kakistan. This is Eastern Europe, and this is the South. You know, and when we kind of zoom in here, you're gonna see that when we're talking especially about Slav nations, you have here South Slavs. This is the South Slav area. Here you have the West Slavs, which would be here Czechs, Polish people. Here you got Slovakians, and here in Eastern Germany you also got the Sorbs. And then we have the East Slavs, which would be White Russia, Ukraine, big parts of Russia, not all of them, and a bit here in the Balticum. And when we're talking here about the South Slavic states, the place where Aleš is coming from is called Slovenia, and it's this place here, right? Where I come from is here. And this whole area here was some time ago called Yugoslavia. Now, when we're talking about Slovenians here, there are two things that you kind of have to know. First of all, in the context of the former Yugoslavia, these people were the best off in terms of finances. They were by far the most smartest and the most capable people that we kind of had in Yugoslavia back then. And fun fact, they're always being confused with this country over here, which is called Slovakia. And as a matter of fact, this goes so far that the both countries, Slovenia and Slovakia, have something like a joint post office where once a week or something the people meet up and then they exchange letters because people kind of address the wrong country. So yeah, that's I think a bit strange and maybe a little bit funny for some. Slovenia itself borders to Austria in the north and Croatia in the south. And to the east we have Hungary. So now you kind of have this geological context and you know more than probably you knew before.
Media in Slovenia is almost 90% left-wing or being owned partly by the state, which means by the deep state, which means by the so-called transitional left wing, which is basically the ex-communistic party.
How can one imagine this? You know, you have to kind of now take in account that most of the people that are going to watch this clip of the both of us actually don't even know that that ex-Yugoslavia that kind of fell apart, that the people who were engaged there, they're not just gone, They just kind of switched sides, went in some new parties, but the majority of these people were still kind of in power, as that was the case after the collapse of the Soviet Union, you know, even after the collapse of Nazi Germany. You had like high-tier Nazis. They were kind of engaged in the high-tier politics of the new German Republic that kind of emerged after that.
Yeah, it's hard to grasp what actually happened or didn't happen in ex-Yugoslavia. Perhaps the most clear statement we can make, because all of our statements about transitional left wing, about deep state left wing, about these are vague terms. Maybe the most clear term we can use is, or the sentence we can articulate is that our states are still being owned by the so-called Utbot, which would basically be similar to FBI or CIA running America right now. Secretly, of course, not explicitly, but yes.
Let me get this straight. So that means that the security service, the former, okay, this is pretty impressive. So the secret service from the old Republic of Slovenia that was part of Yugoslavia, these are the people who kind of own the media right now. Like if the KGB was kind of owning the media.
Yeah, if KGB was kind of owning the media, and it's not quite obvious to me, but there's probably also some collaboration between ex-Yugoslavian KGBs from Serbia, Slovenia, Croatia, and so forth. Serbia is probably also still, at least in some sense, being led by people that were in Udba and still work like secret agents.
Well, Slovenia isn't that big. There are not that many Slovenians out there, so most probably these people are kind of well known, right? I mean, everybody knows somebody who knows somebody else, right?
There are so many lies Slovenes have been told for the last 50, 60 years that no, even us right-wingers don't know. The majority of time we actually don't know who is who in this theater. About Slovenes, I watched a documentary from Serbia about communistic terror in Serbia over Serbs, and there was a Serbian woman asking herself a rhetorical question: how could they do this to their own people, the communists, who supposedly, I don't know, but I'm quite sure they did, killed many Serbs, their landsmen, sort of say. To the day, I'm not quite sure that the leading communists in Slovenia, Croatia, and Serbia were from our ethnic descent. I'm not quite sure, and I'm not prepared to go further because I haven't researched. But the terror the communists did to their own people, if they were their own people, is hard to grasp.
If you kind of just put it together, like the landscape, the media landscape in Slovenia is, first of all, Slovenian held, right?
You mean
It's Slovenian nationals that kind of have the majority of the media.
yeah, I'm not quite sure if there are Slovenes. There are many Serbs, but I'm not sure if they are ethnical Serbs. They are Serbian citizens who are involved in ownership. Yeah, state is involved in ownership. Taxpayers are involved in ownership. For example, RTV Slovenia, national TV, is owned and financed by taxpayers. Also, right-wing taxpayers have to pay for the national television, and national television is preposterously inclined to left. It's impossibly inclined towards left wing, so much that we right wingers always say we won't pay anymore for this shit. We're over with our national TV, but nothing happens, and we're still paying for people to lie to us and to shame us, to denunciate us, and so forth and so forth. We are deplorables. Right wingers are deplorables for our national TV, similarly to what Trump's supporters were for Hillary Clinton in 2015.
I'm right now in Krakow, in Poland, and over 75% of the Polish media is owned by Germans, by German companies. If you kind of take a look at Wikipedia, you're going to see the agenda of these actors. It's always fascinating for me that these things are completely legal, that you can kind of have adversary media that is then going to feed you their narrative on your own soil for money. Absolutely bizarre, and in that regard, what messages is the mainstream media pushing in Slovenia? I mean, if you kind of say it's like the transitional left, which is kind of the old commie left, then I can imagine it's the same things that are going on in the West.
Or on one hand, they're feeding us with the narratives from the States. They're basically an expositor of American Democratic Party and their media. So on one hand, culturally, they'd be for LGBT causes. They'd be for migrants, whatever that means. Being for migrants, they'd be for every single minority, yelling for supposed rights or privileges. So, for example, if there is a Serbian minority that would like to have Serbian language in Slovenian schools, they'd be for it. They'd be for it.
Like everything, not your own, right?
Just not your own, whatever is without any roots, that's for them. That is basically what they're for.
Yeah, look, I am aware of the high criminality rate in such places like, let's say, Velenje or something, where you kind of got non-Slovenians kind of terrorizing Slovenians. Is that kind of something that is being portrayed in any way? Or is this like in Western Europe, when somebody who is, let's say, from Northern Africa and goes on a killing spree in Sweden, that's kind of just, enrichment, that this is something that kind of needs to happen, it's totally okay?
We had a mutual debater or guest in our shows. You spoke to Jared Taylor, and I spoke to Jared Taylor too. And of course, Jared Taylor is a white advocate from America. And I told him that we had similar problems in Europe, but it's a little bit more complicated because our blacks are southern immigrants, for example, or Eastern immigrants, for example. And he just couldn't understand because he thinks we're all just white, and we shouldn't have this much problems with each other. We were too similar in his eyes. While I'm Jared Taylor's advocate, I have to say that this discussion by itself made me think about of whether it is about culture and some other things, not about race. When we talk about migration, that is the problematic. But I'm not quite sure right now.
Back to the media of Slovenia. Like, is this framing working that they have there?
It has worked till now, or till 2015, since MOA 24 has been rising a little bit, and alternative media have shown up, and in Slovenia, I mean, we're not big, but we're actually Slovenia quite big. We're two YouTubers that are talking about political things in Slovenia. Are me and my friend Alan from Scutum Fidei. Scutum Fidei is basically a traditional Catholic podcast, and I'm a little bit more secular, but we're both right-wing, conservative, more traditional, and so forth. And the left-wingers basically don't do podcasts, don't do alternative media, or they do it badly because they don't have to. They have their NGOs, they have their they've been state-financed through NGOs, through Soros. They have their 90% of mainstream media, so they don't have any impulses to speak freely through alternative tools, because they don't have to. They can speak freely everywhere.
Yes. Look, you said now that the media is firmly in the grip of this, as you call it, transitional left. I mean, does this translate into governance? I mean, what does the government of Slovenia look like? Is there any, or how does the opposition look like anyways?
Yeah, from since COVID pandemics started, till then we had a totally left-wing government that got scared of COVID and ran away. So Janez Janša, who is in charge of SDS, which is basically a democratic centrist party that respects traditional values. So it's mildly capitalistic, it's mildly traditional, it's a centrist democratic party, but it's called a fascist party, a extreme right-wing party. So Janša got a chance, and his government now has him and Christian Democrats that are also some kind of Democrats leaning towards right-wing, center of the right-wing. But the other parties in the government are basically centered to the left, and we have a mixed party that is, we could call it centrist party right now. Although all Janez Janša's parties have been called have been called right-wing. He's been a prime minister now for 3 times, and left-wing or the mainstream media have been calling him a right-winger, an extremist, so forth, since his first role as a prime minister.
Okay, so this is pretty impressive. So how is this going to go further then now? What do you think?
It seemed, I don't know. We have this funny situation a couple of months ago and a couple of days ago. An opposition that's been calling itself a cool coalition. It's really funny because it's made up of the worst of the left-wing politicians. The worst of the politicians left-wing were left with, because everybody else is either dead or not interested in getting involved in politics on the left wing, and they tried to impeach the government, the prime minister. They're trying to impeach now 3 different ministers, and they would say they have enough votes to get it to pull it through, but then it showed that they didn't, and it was a farce. But the mainstream media made it as if they were some sort of real protagonists, but they weren't. They were, and I'm basically, because of that and because of the rise of some alternative media, I've been a little bit more optimistic about Slovenia.
Okay, that's it for now, friends. Please do share this video around if you have had any value out of it. Like, comment and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'm gonna see you soon, friends. Goodbye.